everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name's Amanda and today I want to talk to you about imposter syndrome. Now, I've heard a lot of people talk about imposter syndrome. I've seen it on Instagram, YouTube, social media, in the actual media. I've heard it spoken about in my training as well. Imposter syndrome, it's very common, but some people still haven't really heard about it, don't really know what it is. But I'm going to give you the definition of imposter syndrome, and when I read it to you, you may start to identify with it and say, actually, I think I may have experienced this in the past. There's some, or even experiencing it now. There are some people who experience it in a much more invasive way, and there's some people who it just kind of niggles around in the background, or they don't experience it that often. But it is out there, and imposter syndrome is a lie, and we need to deal with it. We need to have more confidence in ourselves, and that's what this video is all about. So what I'm going to do today is share with you what the definition of imposter syndrome is, talk to you about my own personal experience with imposter syndrome, and then give you a few tips and tricks that I've used to try and overcome and get past this whole thing. So I've written down the definition to make sure that I get it right. And the definition of imposter syndrome is when an individual doubts their skills, talents, or accomplishments and has a persistent internalized fear of being exposed. Now, the reason why I said a minute ago that imposter syndrome is a lie, because in that definition it says that you have the skills, you have the talents, you have the accomplishments, but for some reason you still doubt them and you think you're going to be found out. Found out about what? I don't know, because you have all those things. You have the skills, the talents, and the accomplishments, but there's just this invasive, internalized, persistent thought that, you know, someone's going to find me out, that I'm a fraud, I shouldn't be here. But it's a lie, and we need to deal with it. So my experience with imposter syndrome, for people that don't know, if it's the first time that you're visiting this channel, hello. I am a doctor. I work in the UK as a general practitioner, GP, family medicine. So I see people from all walks of life, and I help them with their health, basically. And if you want to know a bit more about me, please check out my other videos on this channel. Please subscribe and like and share this video as well, because hopefully it can help somebody else. But I think a lot of it stemmed from my imposter syndrome. First of all, stemmed from my journey to get into medicine. So I have another video, it's called I think my journey to medicine, I think it's called, where I just talk about how I found myself becoming a doctor. And it wasn't a straightforward journey. I have a lot of people doubting my skills and my ability to do it. I didn't get into medicine in the most conventional way. I had to go through an access course. And so I think those things in the back of my mind, that there was people that doubted me and I didn't get straight into medicine, made me start kind of doubting my abilities. And that was something I experienced throughout medical school. And actually, when I often talk about myself, when I talk about my journey into this, or describe like what kind of person I am, I'll have to say to people, I'm not very book smart, you know. I'm not like the smartest person, or I kind of caveat it with this thing of, you know, I'm not that clever. Like, don't think that, you know, I'm really clever because I'm a doctor. But I've worked really hard. I need to stop saying things like that. But that's part of the imposter syndrome, kind of warning people, you know, don't expect too much from me. But I got through medical school and I achieved things, you know. I became a doctor, I went into foundation training, and then even though I'd proved myself through medical school, this imposter syndrome came up again. And I found it because of a lot of the people I was working with, surrounding myself with. So the other doctors that I worked with, I found that when we were having conversations, I couldn't always relate to what they were talking about. And I think it's because of the people that I found on my jobs maybe, and I wasn't surrounding myself enough with people from my backgrounds, because there are a lot of doctors who have similar backgrounds to me. But I found that, you know, on the wards that I was working on, we'd go down for lunch and people would be talking about how their ski holidays, and when they rented this wonderful yacht boat with their family and went on this lovely trip every summer, and they talk about all these wonderful things that they did, or they would talk about what they're doing on the weekend or what their family is doing. And I just felt so like, I don't fit into this group. I've not had this experience. I don't know how to share in this conversation. And I felt myself becoming an imposter again. Like, oh gosh, these guys are going to find out that I don't come from this amazing background. I didn't play lacrosse at school. So there were some people that played like lacrosse at secondary school, and other sports like that, which you just don't find in comprehensive schools that I went to. And so that was another time where it came in that, oh, my background's not quite the same. What I'm going to do when I've got to like engage in these conversations, these social events, am I just going to be the one left out? I also found it sometimes when I was on the ward, if I was being asked questions by the consultants, I'd be initially very timid in answering. I felt like my answer was always going to be wrong because I had this thought that, I just don't know enough. But as time went on, I did build confidence and I overcame that. And I found that even in those circles where people grew up differently to me, I was still able to hold my own. I was still able to share my background and actually develop really good relationship with my colleagues. And I was able to gain a lot more confidence on the ward and become quite a good doctor, I think. And even now in my practice, I feel like I'm doing quite well. I feel like I treat my patients really well. And so I felt like I was overcoming that imposter syndrome. And I'll talk in a minute how I overcame that. But then imposter syndrome creeps in again just this year, in the last maybe six months or so. And that's when I started this YouTube channel and my Instagram page. If you're not following, please go over to Instagram. It's Life with Dr. Amanda over there as well. And when I started these pages, and I remember I was like, I'm starting on the 1st of January because I've got things that I want to tell people. I want to put myself out there. I want to, give my voice a chance in this whole social media world because I feel like it could help people. So I made that decision. But beforehand, of course, we research, don't we, to see what this whole world's all about. And so I started following a lot of other doctor pages, and I saw the content they were bringing out. I saw the videos that they were doing. I saw the number of followers that some of them had, and I started thinking, oh, I don't know if I can do this. If I go onto here, someone's going to ask me a question, or I'm not going to get enough following because someone's going to find out that I'm an imposter again. And it's just this thing that's so irrational where it comes from. Or I'd look at doctors and be like, oh, that post was so knowledgeable. Like, wow, did you see what they wrote? And everything's been shared so many times. And then I'd start talking to some of these doctors and reaching out to them and finding that they think very similar things. Or people had looked at my page or what I was doing and was, so complimentary about the way in which I speak or the content that I've given. And so I was just like, wow, okay. So again, imposter syndrome coming in where it's just not warranted. And that's something I'm getting more confident with and I'm overcoming. I'm trying to continue being consistent and posting things and really immersing myself in this whole new community of social media. But those are kind of the ways that I've experienced imposter syndrome. Please comment down below if you've experienced anything like this yourself. Maybe it's in your job, maybe it's in something else, in maybe a hobby that you're doing or as a parent, or where does this imposter syndrome come up for you? But that's my experience. But let's move on to some actual practical advice about how I've overcome imposter syndrome and how you can do the same. Okay, so I have 5 tips. The first one is that I got to know myself. A lot of the time I had this imposter syndrome because I was looking at other people. I was looking at their skills, their talents, what they've accomplished in similar roles to me. And I said, oh, I haven't done all that. And so I felt like, how can I be in the same space as them? But I found that once I got to know myself, once I understood what my skills were and what my talents were, then I was able to dive deep into that. And so rather than reflecting what other people are doing, comparing myself, feel like an imposter, I compared myself to myself and I dived deep into my own skills. I found that I might not be I just said that I'm not going to say this again, but I'm not the most academic doctor. Yeah, I'm a skilled doctor and I'm skilled in being able to really listen to a patient and being able to adapt the guidelines, adapt the medicine to fit the individual person. I'm good at conferring a relationship and allowing a patient to open up to me, and I'm good at problem solving and finding differential diagnosis. I'm a good communicator, and I'm good at talking to people at mass. I'm good at public speaking. I'm good at showing people I'm good at empowering people to be advocates for themselves, to understand their own health. I'm good at those things. I'm not good at being a surgeon. I'm not the one. I'm not very is it dexterous, or my hand-eye coordination does not lend itself towards surgery for me. And so I had to understand that and dive deep into my skills and find out what area I'm supposed to be in, and also really start to embrace my background, embrace where I came from, my family, who I am as a person, my different hats that I wear. I had to really embrace that and let that come out in all aspects of life, rather than trying to be someone that I'm not, because then I am being an imposter. And so that's the first thing that helped. It was getting to know myself and really appreciating myself and talking positively to myself, and just diving deep into those skills. So number 2 was using objective evidence. A lot of the time I say to myself, oh, I'm not good enough, or this or that, but actually it was something that I heard in a podcast as well, which kind of goes into this as well, but in a more structured way. But actually looking at evidence to say why you're good. So sometimes, you look at yourself, say, I'm a good listener, or I'm good this, I'm good at, educating people, or you say all these things, but when there isn't evidence, you kind of feel like you're lying to yourself. And so getting objective evidence, I've done things like I've had surveys from my patients, I've had surveys from my colleagues who have given feedback about how I've been as a doctor, how I've been as a colleague, and using that evidence has really helped me to see myself in a more positive light, and see that I am in the right place. Looking at the exams that I've done and achieved, looking at the outcomes that my patients have had, the correct diagnosis that I've made. I remember I used to get quite nervous at the start of my general practice life when I first went into GP land, that I would see a patient, I would do something for them, and give them some medication or advice or whatever, and then a few weeks later I saw onto my appointment screen that they were back again, they were back for another appointment. I used to feel so nervous that they're coming to complain, or I've done something wrong, I didn't diagnose them correctly, and so they're coming back to say that what I did was wrong. I used to be so nervous about that, and then they'd come back and be like, oh yeah, and they had another problem, and they're like, oh yeah, what you did before, that was perfect, yeah, I've feeling lots better from that, thanks doctor, or yeah, I did everything that you said and things are improving, or they're just coming to say nice things like that, or they're coming for another problem, because in general practice, you deal with everything, we deal with all aspects of the person, and so of course patients come back, and that objective evidence with patients giving me feedback and me seeing that my management plans were correct, and that patients were wanting to come back to me, were requesting to have appointments with me, that really helped with my imposter syndrome. So having objective evidence as well, proving to yourself. And what I was saying about the podcast in a more formal way of doing that is that it was on the Medic Mom podcast, and they had a guest on there talking about burnout, and what she said that she does is that rather than just saying these positive affirmations, she'd write evidence next to it. So it would, if she said to herself, I'm kind, she said, I'm kind because today I helped somebody at work, or today I went to the supermarket and someone was really struggling and I helped them to find the right way, or whatever activity that was kind that they did that day. And so actually giving yourself objective evidence that you can't argue with helps to kind of convince your brain and your mind that you're not an imposter, you're in the right field. Tip number 3 is getting feedback from other people. So yes, you can do formal feedback where you get like written surveys, but what I started to do was just sit down with my colleagues sometimes, be like, how do you actually think I did? Or I would do a video on YouTube about say my menopause video, I'd send it to my gynecologist friend and I say, how was it? And get some actual feedback. Sometimes you feel like it's fishing for compliments, but if you talk to really honest people, that can also help you overcome this imposter syndrome as well. Tip number 4 is challenge yourself. If you've heard the phrase, fake it till you make it, I'm a big believer in that. Sometimes your brain doesn't always catch up with what the actual reality is, what the actual facts are. And so sometimes your brain will say that, I'm an imposter, I can't do this, no, I can't do that, I'm not qualified. But if you have an opportunity, challenge yourself to take it. So with myself, since starting this channel, I've been asked to talk at a school, with a university society. I've done quite a few webinars now with different professional groups. I've spoken to some educational psychologists. I'm talking to different churches about educating them about certain things. I've been asked to do blog posts. I've been asked to write on a website about teenage health. All these things have come up, and there's been so many times where I'm like, you want me to do it? I'm not sure if I'm the one that's qualified, but I've challenged myself. And so I faked it till I made it, and I did it, and I got excellent feedback. And so sometimes pushing yourself out of your comfort zone, and that is the way that you grow, and that's the way that you start to understand you can do a lot more than you think. Tip number 5 is to address what's making you doubt your abilities. Is it with me when it was in my job? Sometimes I think I don't know enough. And so I would take the time to make sure that my knowledge was up to date. I'd keep up to date with things. I'd read about things. When I had imposter syndrome about was I doing the right thing for my child, then I went to, I did some things where, like, I did a newborn course where I went and learned about baby massage and sign language, and I spoke to other moms about it, and I read books about weaning and sleep training and all these things. It's a lot of advice that you don't have to take, but often empowering yourself with knowledge, keeping yourself up to date, you can start to really feel comfortable in your accomplishments and your talents and skills, because you know that you have that understanding and background. So making sure that you've got that, making sure that you've got the knowledge so that you can have something to fall back on, and build that confidence that way. So I really hope that helped. I hope it was interesting, a bit about imposter syndrome. If you've experienced it, please let's have a little discussion, comment down below, follow me on Instagram. Thank you for watching. And if you haven't subscribed, because I know quite a few people watch these videos and they don't subscribe, please hit the subscribe button. It really helps me out, and like the video too. And I'll see you again soon. Bye.